Hello, friends. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Monday Morning Pep Talk. I'm Matthew Grande, one of the co-founders of To Careerage, and this week we're going to talk about slowing down. So before you change the speed of this recording to 1.5x or 2x, I want you to contemplate two questions. What might be possible if you were more aware of when and where you are moving too quickly, and why? And what might be possible if you slowed down? When I reflected on these two questions, a few very meaningful things became clear. First, there are so many places where I was moving too quickly. Just the highlights include just in moving from point A to point B. Whether I was driving, walking, biking, I was always in a rush. And in most of those cases, there was no good reason why. For example, I would create all of this anxiety in my household every morning because I would take our daughter to daycare and I felt this need to be out of the house at a certain time, even though I didn't start my work day until 90 minutes later, and even though there was no requirement for her to be at school at any given time. Yet I put all this pressure on myself, my partner, and our daughter to get out of the house at a certain time. Another place where I saw this come up is in my learning. I always thought I could become an expert in something quickly. So I'd download 100 different things, many of which I never read, listened to, or watched. And the same even goes for hobbies. If I moved more slowly in any of the things I loved to do or wanted to learn, like taking photographs, cooking, writing, speaking Italian, I would be an expert at this point. This also showed up in my relationships. I cannot tell you how many times my goal was to increase the number of contacts in my personal database, only to realize I was sacrificing deep, meaningful connections with a chosen few. And this showed up even in person, where I was moving quickly from one conversation to the next. I was not actively listening to the person I was talking with. I was waiting for my turn. I wasn't waiting for my turn to speak. I was waiting for my turn to react or respond, as opposed to just being slow and intentional and listening. And finally, in my decision making, there are so many lessons from my past where I failed to recall, remember, and integrate key learnings in my decision making. So in many cases, I made the same mistake multiple times because I was not more intentional in my decision. I also said yes to a lot of things that should have been clear no's. So now let's talk about some of my whys. For so much of my life and professional journey, I actually thought speed was an important measure. I moved quickly for fear of losing opportunities, losing productivity, wasting time, and because I generally thought that speed equaled success. The more quickly I could learn things, do things, and meet people, the more successful I would be. And the reality is, I created so much anxiety that never needed to exist in the first place. What I realized is there were three main drivers to mind behavior, none of which were particularly healthy. My first was to keep up with whatever I thought was going on around me. Move more quickly, do more things, keep up with the Joneses. This is never an authentic motivator, but sadly, it is one for many of us. The second was because I often wanted instant gratification. I wanted to be an expert in a topic immediately. I wanted to be a brilliant photographer overnight. I wanted to have a successful business in just a few months. I wanted to be fluent in Italian by the end of the week. And all of that pressure I put on myself to move more quickly just ended up resulting in incredibly slow progress because I was not taking my time to devote to meaningful, intentional, and focused progress. And the third and least productive driver was because I didn't want to be doing the thing. I realized I tried to move through tasks, conversations, meetings, and projects quickly because I actually had no real commitment to them. They were things I didn't really wanted to be doing in the first place. This is one of those places that as soon as I reflected and became aware of what I was doing and why, it was very easy for me to make meaningful and impactful changes. A few highlights include I walk and drive slowly now. I use all of my senses to take in the environment around me. I tell people I'm going to be late so I don't have to rush. I remove the false sense of urgency from being anywhere at any time. I let people go in front of me. I stop at yellow lights. Now I also learn slowly. Now I pick the topic and first explore why it's important to me. I ask myself, what are my learning objectives? In what parts of my life will this be helpful? And who are the greatest sources of wisdom in this space that I could learn from? Instead of amassing volumes of information, I focus on the slow absorption and integration of a few key resources. I also build deeper relationships with fewer people. I ask myself, who are the 5 people I would love to talk to and learn about their life, their work, their journey, not the next 50 people. I also make decisions more intentionally. I never rush to yes. I always ask myself, what are the smaller decisions I can make more slowly than making this big decision? I also explore the decision the impact will have on me long term and not just right now. And finally, I find joy in the journey. I think the most important takeaway for me is now I enjoy how I am doing what I want to do instead of just accomplishing what I want to do. I'm finding ways to find joy in every part of my life and work, regardless of the outcome it's moving towards. Now, of course, I still fail sometimes, but this awareness has made those moments few and far between, as opposed to daily. So here are a few things you can do this week to increase your awareness and start to slow down. Ask yourself, where are you moving too quickly and without intention? Explore your personal and professional lives and the roles you play in each. Pick 1 or 2 to focus on initially where you really want to make progress. Now, in those areas, ask yourself, what is driving your speed or your pace? Are you trying to keep up with someone else? Are you trying to do something you really just don't want to do? Are you trying to power through something? Or are you afraid of something? Ask yourself, what is the real meaning behind that speed? And finally, ask yourself what might be possible if you made the choice to slow down. How might you do it? Would you stop doing something altogether? Would you invest more time in setting your intentions up front and moving purposefully through them? Could you find a way to do even the hardest things and find joy in the process? We may never know how our day, week, month, year, or life will end, which is all the more reason to treat every moment as an opportunity to find joy, peace, inspiration, or growth, regardless of what the outcome may be. As always, if you need a supportive ear as you work through this exploration, please never hesitate to reach out. Remember, we love you, we believe in you, and we're here for you. Take care of yourselves and one another, and we'll see you again next time.